Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Selling to Healthcare. I'm Lisa Miller, and I've spent over 25 years in and around hospital operations, selling, consulting, building, and running my own company, and now helping companies figure out how to actually get in front of executives and win. And today I want to do something a little bit different and, kind of let you into what I'm working on right now. So I'm writing a new book right now, and, I'm right in the thick of it, and I thought, rather than wait until it's all done and polished, I'd actually share my thinking with you as I go, kind of think out loud with you while it's still fresh. So I wanted to walk you through the very first chapter, kind of where my head's at as I'm writing it, because I think it matters for just about every business owner, whether you're selling into healthcare or you're running a local business in your town. So this is chapter 1, at least how I'm thinking about it right now. And I've been calling it the new front door to your business. So here's the thing I really want you to sit with. Google is not disappearing, right? People are going to keep using it. I use it every day, but the behavior, the way people actually search, that's changing. And I think it's changing pretty dramatically. So it used to be that somebody would type in a few keywords and then review a bunch of websites, like they might search Palm Beach Gardens orthopedic practice and then just start clicking around. And now that same person, they might go into AI and ask a whole question, like who's the best orthopedic practice near Palm Beach Gardens for a knee replacement? And which one has the strongest patient reviews? And the difference there is really important, right? Because AI doesn't just hand you a list. It interprets the question, it evaluates what's out there, and it might actually recommend a few businesses before that customer ever visits a single website. So let me kind of walk through this the way I've been thinking about it, almost like a set of questions. So the first one is just, how do customers traditionally find a local business? And there's really a few ways, right? So one is direct mail. They did postcards, some form of direct mail. The second is people would Google things like whatever business they needed, near me, and then they'd look at reviews, they'd get referrals from neighbors, and, they'd get those packets, those mail packets of coupons, and they might actually just see the business in a physical location, right? Like driving by. So that's traditionally how it worked, with, I think, a large majority of it being Google. Googling something has really been the traditional way to find a local business. So the second question is, what are customers doing differently now? Well, most customers now are in ChatGPT. Some people use Claude, but the big usage is ChatGPT, and now they're asking questions, right? So they're going a little bit deeper into what they're actually looking for. So it's more conversational, it's more question-driven. And, you did have some questions people would put into Google, but when they go into ChatGPT or Claude, they're getting a little bit more of the long tail, a little more detail with their questions, looking for the best or looking for some specificity. So what they're doing now is kind of doing that research right in AI, like trying to understand what's available, maybe what to look out for, any of their more specific questions, because they can get those things answered really quickly in AI versus going into Google, having to pick an article, read the whole article. In AI, they get that information quickly and it's already compiled and assimilated for them. So the third question, what does AI provide that a traditional Google search does not? And I kind of started this with the last question, right? But it provides a tremendous amount of information quickly versus having to go through a Google search, clicking on different websites. And most of the time it wasn't very useful. Whereas in an AI search, there's a lot of depth, there's detail, and you could ask several questions and then AI comes back with a lot more information to review. So people are taking those answers because it's compiling a lot of information and it's compressing time, right? So the time it would take to Google and review, AI has now dramatically compressed that. So somebody can get a really great answer very, very quickly. So the fourth question, and this is a big one, why might a successful business be absent from an AI answer? And they could be absent for several reasons, right? So one, they don't have enough content on their website or their socials. Two, their website structure is blocking bots. They could just have all the wrong schema, the wrong setup. Because the physical structure of a website can make it very difficult for the bots to go in and read it. And the bots are looking everywhere for quick answers. So if they go to your website and it's very difficult and they're not getting the answer, they're going to bounce and they're going to go somewhere else. The other thing is, you might not be answering the questions your customers are actually looking for. And do you really know the questions your customers are looking for? And do you have enough content, in such a way, like there's a list or there's a guide, and are you in a few different places? So it helps obviously to have a website, but do you have videos? Do you have newsletters? There's different forms of content that AI can find you through. And it's also just consistency, right? Having consistent content so that AI knows this is trustworthy. And nowadays, the content can't be purely AI written. You can certainly have AI help you, whether you're writing yourself and AI is editing, like I'm doing for this book right now. I'm talking the whole book through. So it's my ideas, my content, and then I'm using AI to edit. So the other reason a business is absent is that it's just not real content. So if you're a local business, how do you put stories in? How do you give those trust signals? How do you have examples and pictures of your work? Those are really the things that would make you successful, to actually be in an AI answer. So the fifth question, what happens when AI recommends a competitor? And I think a couple of things happen, right? So when AI recommends your competitor, that person's going to go to your competitor. And unless something goes wrong in the process, the phone doesn't get answered, nobody follows up, nobody gives a quote. I mean, there's a lot of things that could still bring that person back to AI, but for the most part, they're going to go somewhere else. Because everybody's looking for speed these days. Speed is everything. Speed to answer, speed to pick up the phone, speed to follow up, speed to quote. I mean, we're living in such an accelerated time where the demand is we want not only answers, but we want the businesses we reach out to respond quickly. And then the second thing is it only enhances that, right? So AI gets a signal that the competitor is being used and it's going to continue to refer them. So it's actually a compounding effect for them, but a negative effect for you. If your competitor is being chosen and you're not, and your customers keep choosing them, AI is just going to keep on referring them. So the sixth question, what do business owners misunderstand about this shift? And I think there's probably a few misconceptions. So one is that, it's not a big deal like people are making it out to be. And I think it really is a big deal. I think it will actually put businesses out of business if they don't get into AI visibility because it's just going to grow from here, the way this is going to proceed. And the other area is, maybe they just don't know how to do it, right? Like, where do you even start? And that's legitimate. And I think you need a plan. And the plan can start simple, right? Create a plan, do some activities, and then just be consistent. But I think people just don't know where to begin, or they're doing it and they're showing no results. And, they think it's going to happen very quickly. And unfortunately, it's not going to happen overnight. But with consistency and great content, you have a really high likelihood of showing up. And once you're there, you can just keep the momentum going. And that's a great place to be. And, if you think I'm overstating any of this, the research is actually really strong here. So Yext found that almost 43% of consumers had used AI for local search in just the previous month, and 28% had already tried a new local business because of an AI recommendation. And here's the one that really got me. Among North American households earning more than $150,000 a year, more than half, about 55%, started their local search with AI. And then McKinsey found that half of consumers were already using AI search, and they projected that $750 billion in consumer spending could flow through AI search by 2028. So this is not a someday thing, right? This is happening right now. And I'll put links to both of those reports in the show notes if you want to go deeper. So the seventh question, where do I believe search is going next? So I was listening to the Google CEO and the people on his team talk about where search is going. And I was also on Cloudflare, a tool where you can see the activity on your website and where that's coming from, whether it's Google or the bots. I mean, now there's so much detail and you can see it right there in their panel where it's going right now. So right now, the bots are referring to your website, but eventually your website will need to have bots too, right? Whether they're answering calls or answering information or helping with an order. So it's really going to be this bot-to-bot conversation. And then even further out, the bots that come into your website will be able to actually use your tools. And it's going to get very, very advanced. So we're just at that cutting edge. But where it's going is you're going to have bots on your site. And the bots out on the internet are going to be speaking to each other. And, how easy is that going to make that communication path? So that's why this is so foundational right now. The work you do to establish your visibility, it really lays the groundwork for the future. So the eighth question, how will conversational agents change business websites? And I think the number one way is that the agents will be able to speak to one another, right? And they'll be able to work with each other to either order or solve problems. It's going to get very sophisticated what these agents are going to do and how your website functions. It won't be this simple static website anymore. It'll really be dynamic. It'll really be conversational. So imagine your website having like its own customer service, your own operating model right within your website, just working on your behalf with no humans involved. But that's really how conversational agents are going to work in the future. However, right now, a conversational agent on your website, and I have them on my website, they're very, very valuable because they pop up, they can answer simple questions and they can schedule appointments. So even if you just use it by having certain questions someone can answer to schedule an appointment, it's very valuable. And it can be used as a knowledge source so somebody can come in and get information. So For instance, if you're a plumber or any kind of home service and something's going wrong, the person can put what's wrong right into your conversational agent, and then that agent can start diagnosing whether it's urgent or not, or just talk through some scenarios. So it's going to get very sophisticated there. So the ninth question, what should business owners be doing right now? So business owners should absolutely be going down the road of first getting their websites ready or structured so that you're ready for AI visibility. So AI can pick you up and refer your website because there's a lot of structural components to your website. And, I've seen websites that had great content, but then they had something wrong with the website that actually blocked the bot. So no bots could get in to refer them on AI. So what somebody could do right now is have a very extensive analysis of your website to understand your SEO, your AI visibility, the structure, the schema. It's a very comprehensive analysis, and that structural component is so key. So business owners should really be doing that right now. And then in parallel, you need to start creating that content, creating what's valuable to your customers. And then thirdly, start putting an agent or two on your website so that calls get answered or as a source of information. And there's some really cool things you can do that customers really like. So those are the three things. So the last question, what examples or experiences have shaped my perspective? So I can name a few things. Personally, I am now consistently getting referred by AI. And that's taken, I'd say about a year, maybe a little bit less. With content, I wasn't completely 100% focused, but in the last few months, I've been very focused on my website, the structure, the content, all these pillars. And now very consistently, I'm getting found in AI. People are reaching out because they found me there. And my Google search, of course, is very, very high. So if you were to Google right now, selling to hospitals, which is something I've done for many years, you'll see that I'm number one on that search. And of course, that search then feeds into AI as well. So I've seen the power of that. And there's a number of strategies. I have a Substack, and I think some of you local businesses should start a Substack too. There's a lot of other things you can do to enhance your visibility. And, some other examples, and this is really why I love this space so much. When I had my consulting firm before I sold it, I really focused on picking particular keywords that could be Googled or used on YouTube. And for years, we had the number one spot on YouTube and Google. And I had senior executives reach out to me because they Googled something or they were on a YouTube video. So I know the power of SEO and now AI visibility to completely change your business. It's changed my business twice, right? First with my consulting business and now with the work I'm continuing to do. And then here's one more, and this one's really personal. So I was trying to find a doctor for my mom, and it had to be a very specific kind of doctor. And honestly, I just kept coming up empty. So I finally went into AI and I asked some questions, kind of had some back and forth. And this one doctor came up who was just, the most perfect fit. Like I couldn't have found a better doctor if I tried. And now, I do that same thing for my whole family. Whenever there's a really niche, really specific healthcare need, I'll just go straight to AI. So that's a big part of what's shaped how I see all this. So I want to leave you with the one idea that this whole chapter is really built on. Search is not disappearing. It's becoming a conversation. And your business has to be able to participate in that conversation. So that's chapter 1, the new front door to your business. And if you want to talk about any of this, getting your own business ready for AI visibility, there's a link in the show notes to reach me directly. And I've got some free resources in there for you as well. All right, that's it for today's episode of Selling to Healthcare. I'm Lisa Miller, and I'll be back next week with more strategies to help you sell smarter and stand out. Until next time.